Good morning, everybody. Today is Sunday, October 18th, and we would like to welcome everybody who's here at Becerra de Meneses in Miami, Florida, incarnate and disincarnate. As everyone knows, Becerra de Meneses is a 501c3 nonprofit. Everyone who's here is a volunteer. Every penny that comes in this door is a donation, and we function strictly on donations and volunteers. Our goal is to promote the study of Spiritism and the practice of spiritual and material charities. And anyone who would like information can now log on to www.spiritist.com or send an email to info@spiritist.com or call 305-477-4148. Our Gospels are broadcast live on YouTube, and you can log on to www.youtube.com/Becerra Miami to listen in. We're going to start today by reading the book Our Daily Bread by our dear Francisco Candido Javier, who we lovingly call Chico Javier, by the Spirit Emmanuel. And today, chapter 128 is Because of Ignorance. They will do such things because they have not known the Father or me. Jesus spoke to us through John at chapter 16, verse 3. Quite often, painful perplexities faced the disciples, inspiring them to question, why is there disharmony with regards to fraternal efforts? The journey towards righteousness encounters somber barriers. The establishment of the light is projected, but the darkness penetrates the path. Simple projects are formulated for clarity, which ill intentions attempt to interrupt at the first moment of its realization. As a rule, the destructive demonstrations originate from distinguished individuals who, due to circumstances, act as guides of the general thoughts. They, in the majority of the occasions, are the ones who instigate through their discourses, impositions, and improper demands. However, the sincere student of Jesus should not waste time with questions and anxieties that are not justified. The divine teacher clarified this great problem in advance. Ignorance is the common source of unbalance. If this or that group of individuals tries to impede the manifestation of goodness, it is due to the lack of knowledge at this time of the blessings from heaven. It is no more than this. It is essential, therefore, to disregard the darkness that still dominates the greater part of earth, allowing each student to live in the light that palpitates in the service to our Father. And so, for reading and reflection on today's lecture, in today's readings, Emmanuel reminds us we live in a world that darkness still tries to impede the manifestation of goodness. However, the sincere student of Jesus should not waste time with questions and anxieties that are not justified. Am I disturbing the manifestations of goodness due to the lack of knowledge of the blessings from heaven? Or do I make an effort to live in the light that palpitates in the service to the Father? So this is a reflection for us for this week. And let's join together in a comfortable position and take a deep breath and thank our Heavenly Father, our divine Master and Teacher, Jesus Christ, our spiritual guides and mentors, our dear Dr. Becerra de Meneses, our guardian angels, and all those spirits that work so diligently to prepare this environment for us. We ask our Creator permission to start our Sunday Gospel. We ask Jesus to inspire, to bless, and to stay close to our dear brother, and his wife, and that Jesus' words can be resounding in our spirits as he speaks. We also ask, dear Lord, for all those that could not be here with us today and all those that are in need, spiritual, material, whatever need they may be needing at this moment. Anybody that we have in our minds right now. And once again, to the whole extended to rule family. Thank you, dear Lord, for this beautiful day. Thank you for permitting us to reincarnate. Thank you, Jesus, for being our brother and perfect role model. And thank you, those that are here. We ask, dear Lord, for those brothers and sisters that are going through moments of loneliness, through moments that some call depression, and for those that are going through moments of ignorance, as we just read right now, that they may feel all our vibrations and all our love in the form of prayer. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. And today's a very happy day, as I had mentioned before, because we have our dear Alex Alves, who's here all the way from Orlando, visiting with us with his beautiful wife. And he comes from the Spiritism Center of Love and Charity, where all of you, or most of you, remember our dear Gerardo and Ibis are there now and are working, and they've all formed a wonderful team. They had the blessing that they own their center, the only center in Florida that is owned, right? Fort Myers recently. Okay. So it's a big accomplishment, and he was a key factor in that. So we send our love to all our brothers and sisters in Orlando, and we welcome our dear Alex.
Good morning, everyone. I bring together with me Geraldo's and Ibis' most warmest regards for all of you guys. And they always mention about the Becerra de Menezes and how much they had learned and how much they had accomplished in this center. So I bring with me their warmest regards for you guys. Also, for me, it's a privilege to be over here. This center is pretty much the genesis of the Spiritism in Florida. It's from this place, these walls, with these people that everything started with the old Benjamin and Aide and all of your kids and everything. So Spiritism in Florida pretty much started in this place. So for me, it's a privilege to step up on this stage and be up here, stand up behind this podium. And I would like to thank you very much once again for the invitation and for the opportunity to be here. What are going to be talking tonight or today? It's about the chapter 4 on the gospel according to Spiritism, which it says, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And the idea over here is to understand that Jesus' teachings and what he was talking and why Nicodemus was behind him and asking Jesus all of these things that he didn't understand quite very well at that time. So the passage goes like this. Truly I say to you that no one can see the kingdom of God unless he is reborn. Nicodemus asked, how can a man be reborn again when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb to be born? Jesus answered, I tell you the truth. No one can enter the kingdom of God unless he is born of water and spirit. Flesh gives birth to flesh, but the spirit gives birth to spirit. Do not be surprised at my saying, you must all be born again. And then Nicodemus asked it again, how can this be? And Jesus answered, said to him, you are a teacher in Israel, and yet you do not understand these things? I tell you the truth. We speak for what we know, and we testify to what we have seen, but still you do not accept our testimony. So it's a very profound and a very deep teaching that Jesus brought out over here. And this idea, this entire idea, this whole idea of a reincarnation and everything else is nothing. It's nothing new. That's not something that the Spiritism just made up or brought this concept about 200 years ago. When we look into the history and everything, it was already a belief in the old civilizations that we had. The Hinduism and the Buddhism, they already believed in reincarnation 1,000 years before Christ. And even Plato, on 400 years before Christ, he had some ideas, and he had mentioned about the reincarnation, multiple lives, multiple existences, and these kind of things. So Jesus wasn't the first one who brought it. Spiritism wasn't the who created or invented. It was already part of our dogmas, or for the society beliefs on that time. And that makes a lot of sense, because when you look into the history, especially in the history of humankind, and we go to the book Pathway of Light by Emmanuel, that he tells us pretty much the history of Earth since its creation. We all know that we had over here, and Jesus embraced it, a lot of spirits that came from Capel, from the planet Capel, and these spirits over there, they already had this concept. They knew about the reincarnation. They knew about this multiple existence. So when they came over here, it's natural that they brought that knowledge with them. And somehow, when they were incarnated over here, they were talking and trying to remind about everything that they had learned in other planets as well. So it makes sense when we look into these sites. It's very, very important also that when this knowledge this knowledge was already made available on Earth, because they brought that with them. Also, reincarnation and resuscitation. Reincarnation was already part of Jewish dogmas. Reincarnation was part of the Jewish dogmas, being taught under the name of resurrection. Jewish ideas on this point, it were not so clear defined, because they had only vague and incomplete notions with regard to the soul and its connection with the body. So they had some idea, they had some knowledge, and we cannot forget that Jesus was Jewish. Okay, Jesus wasn't Christian. Jesus didn't found a religion. Jesus was Jewish, and he did everything according to the law. All of his procedures, everything that he used to do, even when he was invited for a meal, or even when he had these congregations, when he was in the synagogue, he was wearing all those apparatus that they were to use at the synagogue and everything. He did everything as a Jewish, because he was born on a Jewish people from a Jewish family, and he was following all of these. So reincarnation was already part of these dogmas, but under the concept of a resuscitation, not reincarnation. And how was that? What is the difference between this resurrection and reincarnation? How can we define this? Resurrection presupposes a return to the same physical body, whereas science demonstrates that this is materially impossible, especially when the same body has decomposed and long since been dispersed and reabsorbed by other living beings or anything like that. Reincarnation is the return of a soul or a spirit to physical life in another body, which has been newly formed for it and which has nothing to do with the previous one. So resurrection means that something that was already dead is born again or comes in the life again, which science clearly demonstrates it's not possible. Reincarnation, it talks about the soul, the spirit, and not the body, which again makes all the sense. Because what are we? We are immortal spirits created by God. We are not just a man or a woman or a body that we are incarnated over here, and by chance we have a soul inside of us. We are a spirit, immortal, that temporarily we are living on earth. So if we are a spirit, and we were talking about the multiple lives, as multiple existences, of course, we were talking about in the return of the soul to a different body, and not the body being reborn again. If we are immortal spirits, our true life is the life as a spirit. So on our evolvement process, on the progress that we have to take on our lives, of course, when we come back as spirits. And that makes the entire difference. The only thing that Spiritism did over here, the contribution, the huge contribution that Spiritism brought to this concept, it was the explanation. So Spiritism was able to explain the difference between resurrection and reincarnation, and most importantly, the whys and the hows, why it happened, how it happens, what is the procedure, why do we have to be back over here. But before we go on this part of this talk, and before we go into this and the approach of what the gospel has to say about it, it's also important that Jesus didn't bring this concept by himself. It wasn't something new, because when we look into the Old Testament, we have tons of passages talking about reincarnation, multiple lives, being reborn, and these kind of things. If you go to Google and you Google reincarnation passages on the Old Testament, it comes, I would say, about 10, 12, 15 passages that you can find those information. On the gospel, according to Spiritism, Kardec brought two passages. I think it's very important that we can share with you guys today. One of these passages from the book of Isaiah, 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 that says, "Those of your people who were killed will live again. Those who have been killed around me will be resuscitated." So there is no doubts here. There is no second guesses. Oh, maybe he didn't mean that. No, he meant will live again. So if it will live again, he's clearly talk about reincarnation. And also in the book of Job, on the chapter 14, that says, "When a man is dead, he lives forever. When my days of existence on earth have finished, I will wait, seeing that I will shall return again. When a man is dead, he lives forever," which is our true life. We as a spirit, we are immortals. We are not eternals. Eternal is only God. Eternal is the one who hasn't had a beginning and doesn't have an end. We had a beginning. So we are just immortals. So our life is forever. We are not going to die never, because we are immortals. So Job over here says very clear, when a man is dead, he lives forever. When my days of existence on earth had finished, I will wait, seeing that I shall return again. So I will go back into my spiritual life, into my existence as a spirit, and then I'll wait in my time to come back over here and do whatever I have to do and learn and have the lessons that I still have to take and everything. Jesus, when this on this talk with Nicodemus, he had us, or he gave us a few glimpses or a few tips in how on what and how the reincarnation works and how was this process. And that is something very, very interesting that we found both on the gospel according to Spiritism and mostly also on the book of Genesis, as we can see now. Um, According to Jesus, now the words, "If a man is not born again of water and of spirit," if a man is not born again of water and of spirits. To enable the real meanings of these words to be reached, is also necessary to pay attention to the significance of the word water here. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 1. "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." And this is the King James version that I'm having over here. "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved it up upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be a light. And there was light. And God saw the light, and the light was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And then it goes on. Uh, Bear with me here. I don't recall one of these passages that's saying God created the waters. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form. And the Spirit of God moved it up on the face of the waters. The water wasn't created by God, according to the book of Genesis. The water was already there. The water was already part of this universal principle. The God was already created together with God, or something like that. It's a way too much beyond our capacity of understanding over here. But when the water was created, how this water came from. And God said the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let divide the waters from the waters. He never created. It wasn't created. So the conclusion that we come over here, and that's not something that why I came with that. There's a whole theory developed by Haroldo Dutra Dias on this. He has a study specifically about the book of Genesis, when he says the waters over here, that means the universal cosmic fluid, which is the basic principle of all matter that we have in the universe. It was already coming with God. So when God was created, when he decided to create everything, this universal cosmic fluid was already with him. And when we talk about fluid, the very first thing that comes to our minds is water. So Jesus brought this concept to us. If a man is not born again of water and of the spirit, if he's not born again as of this fluid cosmic universal, or universal cosmic fluid, which is the basic principle for all matters that form on earth, so a man cannot be born again. That's the meaning of the word water over here. It was already something that already pre-existed before we being created. There is no creation of the water over here in the book of Genesis. And he separates the waters from the above, from the waters from below. What are the waters from the above? We cannot forget that what we have on earth, it's a replication on a very worst and inferior scale on what we have on heaven, what we have in the spiritual realm. Everything that we have here on earth today was already first created in the spiritual realm before we get over here. So if the waters was above, that means that we had something above the waters before we get the waters down here. It's not our topic today. We can talk 3 hours just about those 5 or 6 first verses of the book of Genesis. It's not our topic. I just want to go a little bit deeper on this concept so we can understand where the word water comes from. It has a much a broad meaning that we can understand just on reading that passage and everything. Water was considered to be the exclusive primitive generating substances. This is why we have read in the book of the Genesis all of this passage. That's what Jesus meant over here. According to this belief, water represented the nature of matter, just as the spirit represented the nature of intelligence. So this interpretation, now we can reread it on this way. What is born from the water? What is born from the universal cosmic fluid? What is born from the flesh is flesh. And what is born from the spirit is a spirit. And then Jesus established a clear distinction between body and spirit. What is born of the flesh clearly indicates that only the body generates from the body and that the spirit is independent. So he gave over here a few guidances and orientations and how this entire process used to happen or can happen. Reincarnation also, as we have over here thought of by Jesus, it's a blessing when we are talking, when we see the family links and the family ties that we have. Because the first thing or the first thought that comes to our mind, that's once someone passes away, just like our friend this week, the family ties that we have, it's broken. We are not going to see that person again, or we're going to miss that person forever. I love that person, and just it's gone. I'm not going to see that person again, and everything. That's our basic concept, the basic idea that we have on our normal lives. But when we bring it in the concept of reincarnation and the concept of the multiple lives and the eternity or the eternity of the spirit, everything changes. And why it changes? There is a very simple reason for that. We, as a spirit, we lived with the people that we get along, that have the same, pretty much the same ideas, the same tastes, the same love, that we do the same thing, that we like the same things and everything. So when we discarnated, we're gonna be looking for these people that we have the same feelings and that we get along very easy. When which are the people that you get along very easy? The ones that you loved over here. So that's why in the spaces, spirit entities form groups or families bound together by affection, sympathy towards each other, and by similar inclinations. Frequently, they will even follow each other into the incarnation form, coming here to be united in the same family or in the same circle of friends and acquaintances in order to work together for their mutual progress. That's why sometimes we have people around us that we get along much more than we get along with our own brothers and sisters, because that person most likely used to be a brother or a sister or a very close relative on a previous incarnation, and on this time, on this incarnation, that person is very close, and we're going to be linking or feeling that link with that person very, very hard, very, very deep inside of us, because that person is part of our family, our spiritual family. So when we look into this, we may think that our family ties will be broken during to the incarnation period. If you were thinking on this, yes, it's going to be broken, but just while we are on Earth. But when we are discarnated again, our family ties, we're going to put all of us back together again, because we were going to be looking for those which we get along. These are the ones, this is our true family. These are the families that we live together. And even if we are incarnated over here for some reason, the ones that stayed back in the spiritual realm, they're going to be looking for us. Probably we might have some of them, which is going to be our guardian angels, is going to be walking on this incarnation with us as well, giving us the inspiration, the strength that we needed to go through on our trials and expiations and the tasks that we are running over here on earth. These people, these are the ones which is going to be our background. They're going to be watching our back while we are here, because the links that we created with them is way too strong to be broken just because we are in two different realms of the existences. We can communicate with the discarnated ones. We can communicate with the spirits by thoughts, by prayers, by vibrations, by good feelings. Every time that we generate a thinking or a feeling of love inside of us, that we give this feeling or this thought towards someone, we are establishing a connection. We are talking with those people. That's exactly what happens when we are over here. The union and the affection that we have with these spirits, we're gonna strengthen up the ties, the family ties that we have. Even if we have someone in our family, that person, it doesn't get too much along with us, or that person doesn't have the same feelings or the same values or something like that, we usually say that this person does not belong to the family. Oh, it's a black sheep, or something like that. It doesn't belong to our family. Well, something, it might be true, When we sign this, the truth is expressed far more profoundly than suspected. God permits sometimes that in certain families, these spirits comes to us and stay with us so they can learn from our love, for our family ties, from our values. Maybe we're given an opportunity for that spirit to be exposed to some other concepts, other forms of love, other forms of giving themselves towards something. They might be in need of some other things that they hadn't had the opportunity in previous incarnations to do so. So that's why we have these people around us. They have these kind of reincarnations with the dual purpose of serving as a test for some members of the family and as a means of progress for the others or for the ones which are coming with us. So this reincarnation process makes us even closer, and it straightens up or it strengthens up our family ties. In our families, most likely the wives, husbands, spouses, parents, relatives, brothers and sisters, we are living together, maybe not in the same role, maybe not as spouses, or maybe sometimes with the brothers and sisters, or even parents, or something like that. But we've been living on this life for many and many and many incarnations because we get along with them. We're going to be looking for those people. Let's just think on something, bring it to our own reality over here. We have a we have a kid, we have a son. We are so imperfect over here. Even if that son doesn't get along with us, he doesn't like us for some reason, because I told him that he had to follow Palmeiras, but he decided to go for Corinthians, and we don't get along for that. I don't know, some stupid reason like that. But we don't get along, and he decides to leave home. I'm gonna love him less because of that. I'm not gonna be looking towards him more and more to make sure that he's doing the right things as he was supposed to be doing. That's the same thing. We created these family ties with these people, and we do not abandon them. Even if we go in other directions, we go after them, trying to help them out. We created these family ties, and we are going to be looking for all of us to be evolving together so we can reach the same spot at the same place together, or maybe with just a few incarnations apart. But that's what we're looking for. But the great question that we have on all of these, and Jesus brought us the concept of the incarnation and everything, trying to explain to Nicodemus all of these things. But the big question that we have is, why am I here? Why do I need incarnation? If I'm a spirit, what the heck am I doing over here? Traffic jam on 995 and Palmetto every day, every morning, every afternoon. I cannot even leave in my home that I have a traffic jam at my door pretty much nowadays. Not in Orlando. No, not in Orlando. Orlando, it's a nice place. The worst time of the year in Orlando is between July 15 to August 15, and then between December 20th to January the 3rd and the 4th, and that's all. Besides that, we have no traffic jams. It's perfect. It's paradise. I recommend it to each of you, for all of you guys that had the opportunity to move out. Go for it. It's a wonderful and a blessed place. Not just because of Mickey, but because everything over there is very, very. It's much calmer than over here. Why should I go to these traffic jams? Why should I be facing this every day in my life? I'm a spirit. I can volitate. I can fly. Why am I here? Why do I have to go through this? And then there's a very interesting passage by the Spirit of St. Louis that was given on a message on 1859. And then he says, the passing of spirits through corporeal life, it's necessary in order that they may fulfill by means of a material action the purpose to which God had assigned them. The purpose of which God had assigned them. Then we go to the Spirit's book, the purpose of incarnation. What is the purpose of the incarnation of spirits? And then we're going to understand that this God assigned tasks for each one. God imposes incarnation for the purpose of leading spirits to perfection. For some, it's an expiation. For others, it's a mission. However, in order to reach this perfection, they must go all the vicissitudes of a corporeal existences. Therein lies their expiation. Why? We gotta go all the vicissitudes or problems of a corporeal existence. But why is that? It's so simple. What kind of challenges do we have on the spiritual realm? If we just live with the people that we get along, if we are a good spirit over here, we go to Nosolar or some other spiritual colony up there. When we go over there, we don't have to be worried and concerned about housing. We're going to be living with one of our relatives, people that we get along, that we love. We don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about the job. They had plenty of job to all of us. We can use our time. We can go to studies. We can go to colleges. We can understand. We can improve ourselves without having to pay for that, without having to be worrying about housing, not even cars. We don't have to drive. We volatilate. We can fly around in the spiritual realm. We live with people that we love it, people we like it. What is the challenge over there? How can I test and try out my patience, my tolerance, my love, my capacity of giving to others with no interest if I'm not challenged? I live with the people that I like it. I don't have to worry with my material existence. I'm pretty much get everything that I needed. I'm not challenged. I don't have to do anything. So when we come over here, that we have to fight for all of these, that's when we are exposed to the other situations. That's exactly when the trials comes to us. And then it's when we're going to be seeing if we and checking if everything that we had learned on the spiritual realm, we really had learned that. If we had learned about patience, tolerance, charity, love, forgiveness, understanding, and all of the other concepts that Jesus talks to us on the entire New Testament. That's why we're here. Because if we were not, how can we try it out ourselves? That's the main reason why we're here. And then St. Louis goes ahead. This is necessary for their own good, as the activity that they are obligated to perform will help the development of their intelligence as well. Being just, God must distribute everything in equal parts to all of his children. So it is established that everyone starts from the same point with the same aptitudes, the same obligations to fulfill, and having the same liberty to proceed, the use of the free will. Any type of privilege would be an injustice, but for all spirits, incarnation is a transitory state. That's when we come over here to try everything. And as the St. Louis is saying to us, God must give it to us the same opportunities for all of us. If we are in the spiritual realm, how can we use or how can we try out ourselves using our richness, our power? We don't use these over there. We don't need these things over there. We need over here. We use over here. We apply over here. So we got to come back. We got to come back with rich and powerful. We got to come back with the poor and the miserable, with the ones which are in need, the ones which has the power to help each others. We got to fulfill all of these roles. And how do we do that? Coming back to earth. And then Jesus bringing the concept and the orientation about the reincarnation, we can understand much better why we go through all these vicissitudes and problems and trials and struggles that we have on our material life. We're learning from that. We are preparing ourselves for our future. We are preparing ourselves for our perfection. We are thrilling the pathway of perfection, of involvement. But to do that, we got to do our part. It doesn't come for free. We got to do our own effort. There is no privilege. So then when I come over here, I have the richness, I have the power, I can do whatever I wanted. But I decide to spend my entire life in Bora Bora, swimming with the dolphins, fishing, sunbathing, going to the beach, having daiquiris and margaritas and everything. And I spent all of my money on these kind of things. Is there anything wrong with that? No. Vacations in Bora Bora, I would recommend it to which one, all of us which could afford. I would recommend it. It's very nice. I never been there. I cannot afford it. Don't get me wrong. Okay. Beach over here, Miami Beach or even Naples is already fine for us. I think all of us, we should have vacations, part of our life. We need that, some rest and recovery from once in a while. But the big problem is what do we do and what the focus we give it to our lives. So if I have the opportunity to be helping other people and I take that opportunity or I throw that opportunity out of the window, probably I'll have to be back to relearn, have that lesson on the other way so I can learn the lesson. And then I'll be back and reach it again so I can see and make myself, try myself to see if I have learned the lessons. So if I just throw that opportunity away out of the window on the next existence, most likely I'll have some financial difficulties in my life. I'll have to work really hard to meet my means and everything. So I can give the money and these material possessions the value that I didn't give on a previous existence. So I had the trial, I had the lesson. Then I'll be back again, rich, with the same power and the same opportunities. Have I learned the lesson? Then I'll be try it out again. That's what we're doing over here. And that's the explanation that all of us, we are responsible for our own progress and our own evolvement. Coming back over here, there is no privilege on God's works. So how many times do I have to come back? Is there any limits on incarnations? Is there any limitations on the incarnations? Incarnation does not have a clear defined limits, not whatsoever. Jesus, which is already a perfect spirit, as perfect as he can be, because no one can be as perfect as God, because if not, that person would be God, and then God wouldn't be the only one. We're going to have a competition between gods, and that happened before again with the Romans and the Greeks, and that doesn't go very well. They had problems with those fights and everything. So as Jesus is as perfect as he can be, he already came back. He reincarnated. He had a mission. So even if we are perfect, even if we are established or we reach the stage that we can do the maximum that we can do, sometimes we can reincarnate on Earth or in different planets to expose ourselves as a model. So I can teach, I can give my contribution for the evolvement of that planet, of that society, and not just my own. I'm working towards a mission. The other thing, the other aspect that we have to understand when you're talking about reincarnation and what's this process works, the reincarnation process, it's more linked to the stage and how each planet is formed. If we have a more material planet, a more material environment, so our body, we're going to be more materialized. But when we start to evolve and we go to different planets, which they are more ethereal, the matter which is going to be recovered in our perispirit is in a different stage, or is in a different sensation. It's going to be different as well. So reincarnation, as we know on Earth, we're going to have a limit for that once we are ready to go for another planet. But reincarnation, as in the life of the spirits, there's no limits for that. And I always used to say this on my talks and everything. The only difference between Jesus and all of us over here, I would say it's a few billion years. That's all. Because we have the same potential. We were created by the same Father, from the same source, on the same way, to the same goal. We're going to be Jesus someday. It all depends on us. Actually, he told us that. You were God, and you can do the things that I do and even more. But we didn't pay attention on him. We're still paying attention on our material life over here. We are totally focused to the ground instead of raising up our heads and starting to look into the heavens to see what is out there. Why do I have this life? Why I'm here? What I'm doing over here? But one of the things that makes me really, really happy is when we start to look around us, it's not just us as spiritists, which are learning different ways and different perspectives about our lives. That's a lot of people out there looking for new explanations, looking for the new answers, because the answers that they used to had in the past doesn't fulfill them anymore. So they are looking for other things. So we can see the entire planet, the entire population looking for something different. That's the regeneration process already in place. We are moving forward. All of us, we are evolving. And this is the time, this is the opportunity that we have to let this evolvement process take over on us. And we move along. And we leave behind our old beliefs, that we leave behind the old things that we doesn't fit to our lives anymore, the older concepts that we had. It's about time that we can leave all of this package back behind, and we can start to load the Jesus teachings and all the knowledge that he left to us, and we can start to live in a different way, on a different perspective, for a different future. The perfection, the road of perfection is ahead of us. It's up to us to decide which way we're gonna go. To wrap up our meeting today, reincarnation is not a process, automatized process. It's a tool of the divine and divine love from God to us. He gives that as a proof of his love for us, so he can give us another chance to move forward and go back to him. Thank you very, very much for your time. Is there any questions or any comments that anyone would like to do? No? Thank you. Perfect. Very good. Yeah, I know. I was told. Want to do the prayer? Why not now? You do the prayer. No, she's very shy. Ah, Senhor da vida. Our God, our Heavenly Father. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for this wonderful morning, for this wonderful opportunity, for bringing all of us here together today, for the teachings and the blessings that we were all embraced, that of the teachings and the lessons that we just received can be internalized, that we can understand, that we can take out of our brains and install in our hearts, so we can transform ourselves for good, for once and well. That these teachings, dear God, can give us the strength that we need to fight against our own imperfections, so we can be tomorrow a much better person than we were yesterday. Please shine up your light and your blessings upon all of our friends that couldn't come today, on a very special way, on a very special wave of love, embracement, and compassion towards Abraham and his family, that he can be accepted in the spiritual realm, that all the light that he had produced down here can be shined upon him when he gets there, and for his entire family which is staying behind, that your blessings can be comforting their hearts, their souls, giving them not only the hope, but the certainty that this separation is going to be brief, and one day in the near future, they all going to be reunited again. Then your love, your light, and your blessings can be with us, not just today, but on each and every day of our lives. And so be it. Thank you.